You know those places that sort of whisper stories, places with amazing natural beauty, but also like this undercurrent of change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today on the deep dive, we're heading into one just like that. Dera Morad Beg in Hamedan, Iran.
Yeah, and what's great is the variety of sources we've got. It gives us a really rounded picture, hopefully.
What are we looking at?
Well, we've got a tourism website, a travel guide, the practical stuff, but then also academic articles looking at the economics, the ecology,
Ah, okay.
and news reports too, showing both the pretty scenery and the real life issues people there are facing.
Right. So our mission, if you like, is to really understand Dera Morad Beg. What makes it tick?
What defines it, yeah, and the big changes it's gone through, especially becoming part of the city.
And how people see those changes.
Mhm.
Visitors, residents, everyone. Plus, obviously, look at the nature side and maybe its future.
It's almost like a mini case study, isn't it? How these rural spots merge with cities.
Happens everywhere.
It really does, and the results are often, well, complicated.
So let's paint the picture. Where is this valley exactly?
Okay, so the Kajara travel guide places it just 3 kilometers south of Hamadan city itself.
Right at the foot of the Alvin Mountains then, Hamedan province.
Exactly, and it's not small either. It's apparently the largest valley in the Alvin range.
Wow.
And it's got this history as a recreational spot, mainly because it's cooler there, an escape from the city.
Makes sense. Geographically runs north-south.
Yeah, about 800 hectares with hills on either side.
And here's a detail I found interesting. Historically, it was quite cut off, wasn't it? Compared to other valleys nearby.
That's right. The guide mentions a main path to Poshtko village, but it was only really usable in dry weather,
So kind of isolated.
which probably gave it a unique character for a long time. Its development path might have been quite different.
Even that news report about the snow, it sort of reinforces that image, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Deeply connected to the mountains.
Absolutely. Ties into its environment.
Okay, history time. How far back does settlement go?
Kujaro says the earliest signs are from 700 or 800 years ago, the Ilkhanate period.
Ilkhanate. So Mongol era in Persia, 13th, 14th centuries.
Spot on. So people have been living in this valley for a really long time.
A deep connection to the land then.
You'd imagine so, yeah. Probably shaped the culture, how they used the land over centuries.
Then came the big change. When did it officially become part of Hamadan?
October 4th, 1988. A decision by the Supreme Council of Urban Development. Suddenly, it was urban.
And that's where the academic article comes in, right? Looking at the impact of that annexation.
Exactly. The piece in Fazan named Ekisad Faza studied Der Morad Beg along with 7 other villages that were annexed.
Ah, so it wasn't just this one village.
No, it was a wider expansion. Their research around summer 2020 looked at the economic, social, environmental consequences, the whole package.
So it wasn't just lines on a map changing. There were actual goals, reasons for doing this.
Presumably, yes.
Yeah.
But like you said, these big changes always have ripples, good and bad.
So what did that study find, economically speaking?
Well, it was mixed. They surveyed 200 households across the villages. About 46, almost 47% saw positive economic effects,
Okay.
but around 25% pointed to negative ones.
Right. So what were the positives? What got better?
The main things were improvement of physical services and environmental space. So better utilities, maybe, infrastructure,
Makes sense?
and also improvement of employment status and economic power. Suggests joining the city opened up some job opportunities, perhaps.
Which you'd kind of expect, linking up with the bigger economy. But the downsides, what
Yeah.
were the negatives?
A big one was the reduction of rural functions, particularly farming.
Ah, yeah. Land use changes, right?
Yeah.
Less agriculture.
Exactly. It shifts the whole economic base away from its traditional roots. That's a major change in identity for a place.
Definitely.
And maybe even more critically, the study said the most important impacts overall were urban spatial imbalance and negative environmental consequences.
What does that mean exactly? Uneven development.
It suggests that, yeah, maybe some areas got more attention than others after annexation, and it potentially created new environmental problems or made existing ones worse. You wonder how much of that was planned for.
Which leads us nicely, or maybe not so nicely, to what people are actually dealing with now. That IRNA news report from late 2024.
Right. It paints a pretty stark picture, doesn't it? Despite being annexed way back in the 80s and being in, like, a supposedly affluent part of the city,
Age and one, yeah.
residents are still facing deep problems, big unmet needs.
It talks about a mismatched image. Beautiful nature, but then this inefficient urban fabric.
Yeah, dilapidated buildings, unsafe structures, that sort of thing.
It really makes you question the follow-through after they annexed it, doesn't it? Did the investment and planning actually happen to bring it up to city standards?
Well, the residents seem to think not. A major gripe is just getting around on foot.
The steep slopes without stairs?
Exactly. Imagine being elderly or having young kids, trying to navigate that, especially in winter with ice and snow. It sounds like a nightmare.
Just a daily grind.
It really highlights how standard urban planning needs to adapt to the specific landscape, you know? You can't just impose a flat city model on a mountain valley.
And it doesn't stop there. What else? Sanitation.
Yeah, poor sanitation, garbage collection not happening regularly enough leads to hygiene issues, bad smells.
Ugh.
And the feeling among residents is that the city council, the municipality, just isn't paying enough attention.
You can understand their frustration. These are basic things you expect from a city.
Absolutely fundamental services for health and quality of life.
Then there are these abandoned houses adding to the problem.
Yeah, bought as investments, apparently, then just left to rot.
Create security risks, right? People using them for, well, things they shouldn't,
Yeah.
and the danger of them collapsing.
It points to a lack of oversight, maybe, or enforcement on property upkeep in these areas. It drags the whole neighborhood down.
And the roads and sidewalks are criticized too. People literally asking if they live in a city or a village when it comes to services.
One resident who'd only been there a year saw the potential, as a tourist spot.
But felt it was just neglected, with unsafe roads undermining it all.
And the fact IRNA couldn't get official comments?
Well, it doesn't look great, does it?
No, but at least they said they'd publish a response if they got one. Keeps the door open, I suppose.
True. But despite all these very real problems, the appeal of Dera Morad Beg is still strong, especially for tourism and just getting outdoors.
Qajar really pushes that angle, doesn't it? Popular with Hamedan locals, nice climate, easy to get to.
And the history adds another layer. The guide mentions Baman Mirza Castle,
Qajar era.
Badi al Hokama Mansion, also Qajar, the Pir Rahman Imamzada Shrine, the river, a spring for drinking water.
Lots to see. Tangible links to the past.
Definitely. And for hikers, there's that 8-kilometer trail to Cheshme Farsha. Sounds beautiful. Through orchards, especially in autumn.
Yeah, it paints a lovely picture.
And just the number of other named spots. Wolf Valley, Giant Valley. It suggests a really rich, diverse landscape to explore. But there's always a but, isn't there? The guide also mentions problems caused by this popularity.
Like a lack of proper planning for tourism.
Yeah. Leading to gardens being destroyed, land use changing in ways that maybe aren't ideal.
That classic tension, isn't it? Attracting people versus protecting the very thing that attracts them. If you don't plan it carefully...
You risk ruining it.
Exactly. And it's not just abstract planning issues. There are concrete problems.
Like the motorcyclists.
Yeah, damaging plants, disturbing wildlife, and locals moving mountain stones for building.
Which increases flood risk. Oh, the irony.
It really shows how delicate the balance is. That SWOT analysis study from 2017 basically confirmed all this.
Strengths, unique landscapes, opportunities, natural attractions.
Weaknesses, lack of planning, not enough places for tourists to stay overnight.
Threats, destruction of gardens, natural spaces, it all fits together.
But interestingly, even without big official planning, smaller scale stuff is happening. That Humsa website listing.
Yeah, the traditional house for rent.
A one-bed place, built just recently in 2023 with a terrace, views, even a foosball table.
Football, okay.
It shows there's entrepreneurial energy there, people seeing the potential and trying to cater to visitors. The description sounds lovely: orchards, river, mountain views.
So some infrastructure is developing, just maybe more organically.
Seems like it. Now let's zoom in a bit more on the environment itself. Kojaro flagged an issue with the river, the Alvazerd.
Heavy metals. Zinc, copper, chromium.
Yeah, potentially significant amounts. They advise caution about drinking it. Could be natural geology, could be pollution upstream. Hard to say from just that.
That's a pretty serious concern, though, for residents and visitors.
Absolutely. And the fact that someone did a study specifically on the flora of Dera Morad Beg back in 2015 shows there's academic interest in its specific ecology.
And the weather, of course. Cooler than Hamedan City.
Yeah, summer highs around 30 Celsius, winter lows down to -10. Spring and summer are the recommended times to go.
That weather website mentioning the AI forecasts is interesting, too.
It is, isn't it? Shows how tech is trying to provide really specific local weather info, even for mountain areas where it changes fast.
And finally, if you're there, it's not like you're stuck in the valley. Kojaro mentions other stuff nearby.
Right, Park Parvaz is only 3 kilometers away.
Hamedan Bazaar, the historic one, about 7 kilometers.
And Avicenna's tomb, that's only 5 kilometers. So yeah, it could be a decent base for exploring the wider region too.
Definitely adds to the appeal. A mix of nature and culture close by.
Mm-hmm.
So wrapping this up, Dera Morad Beg is clearly, well, it's a fascinating place, isn't it?
It really is. You've got this incredible natural setting, centuries of history.
But now it's caught up in this complex dance with the city of Hamadan. Development, environment, the daily lives of the people there.
Yeah, becoming part of the city brought some potential benefits, access to services in theory.
But the reality seems much trickier. Big challenges with infrastructure, adapting to the terrain, keeping its unique character, just getting basic services delivered properly.
And the tourism potential is huge, obviously. The landscape, the history.
But it needs careful handling, doesn't it? Sustainable planning, really listening to the local community and addressing those environmental pressures.
Which brings us to that final thought for you listening. When you look at a place like Dera Morad Beg, with all its history and natural value, how can these areas successfully become part of a city without losing what makes them special?
Yeah, and while actually meeting the needs of the people who live there and protecting the environment, what's that balance between development and conservation look like on the ground?
It's a tough question, but exploring cases like this really makes you think about it, doesn't it? What lessons can we take away?